to fiery in seconds. In just 32 seconds, a single comment would turn a routine interview into one of the most shocking moments in talk show history. Kelly Clarkson had built her show on warmth, authenticity, and genuine conversations. Her studio audience loved her because she was real. She laughed at herself. She celebrated others. She made guests feel comfortable. But on this particular afternoon, comfort would be the last thing anyone felt. Meghan Markle walked onto the stage in a designer outfit that probably cost more than most people make in 6 months. The audience applauded politely. Kelly stood up, smiled wide, and extended her hand for a warm greeting. Meghan took it, but the handshake was brief, almost dismissive. There was something cold in it. "Welcome, welcome. So glad you're here," Kelly said, her voice bright and cheerful as always. Meghan sat down and immediately began adjusting her dress, smoothing it out repeatedly as if the chair wasn't good enough for the fabric. Kelly noticed, but kept smiling. "Thanks for having me," Meghan said flatly, without making eye contact. Kelly dove right in, asking about recent projects and charity work. Standard talk show questions. Easy softballs meant to make guests shine. But Meghan's answers were short, clipped, almost annoyed. "So you've been working with several charities lately. Tell us about that," Kelly said. "Yes, well, it's important work. Not everyone understands the level of commitment it requires. It's not just showing up and smiling for cameras, though some people think that's all it takes," Meghan replied. The audience shifted in their seats. Was that a dig at Kelly? The host's smile tightened just slightly, but she pushed forward. "Absolutely. Real change takes real work. What projects are you most passionate about right now?" Meghan sighed. Actually sighed, like the question was beneath her. "I'm passionate about many things, but I find that in these kinds of settings, it's hard to have a real conversation. Everything is so surface level, so produced." Kelly's eyebrows went up. The audience went quiet. This was her show Meghan was calling surface level. Kelly had spent years building this platform on depth and authenticity, but she stayed professional. "Well, we're here to have whatever conversation you want to have. This is your time," Kelly said, opening the floor. "Is it though? I mean, you have commercial breaks to get to, network notes to follow. It's all very manufactured," Meghan said, looking around the studio like she was inspecting a budget motel. The audience was uncomfortable now. You could feel it. People started glancing at each other. Kelly's producer in the wings looked panicked, but Kelly kept her composure. "I think our viewers would disagree. We have real conversations here every day. But hey, let's talk about what you want to talk about. What's on your mind?" Meghan leaned back in her chair, crossed her legs, and smiled in a way that wasn't friendly at all. "What's on my mind is how different my life is from this, from regular talk shows and regular questions. My experiences are unique. Not everyone can relate." "Well, that's kind of the point of interviews, right? To share experiences that maybe not everyone has had," Kelly responded, still trying to keep things light. "Sure, but do your viewers really want to hear about my life? Do they understand the pressures of being in the public eye at the level I've been? The scrutiny, the expectations? I doubt most of them could handle it." The audience gasped. Someone actually gasped out loud. Kelly's smile was completely gone now. She leaned forward slightly. "I think you might be surprised. Our viewers are pretty incredible people. They handle a lot in their own lives," Kelly said, and there was an edge to her voice now. Not mean, but firm. "I'm sure they're lovely," Meghan said in a tone that suggested she thought the exact opposite. "But there's a difference between everyday problems and the kind of things I deal with. The worldwide attention, the constant commentary. It's on another level entirely." Kelly nodded slowly. "You know what? You're right. Most people watching don't have worldwide attention. They're working 2 jobs to feed their kids. They're taking care of sick parents. They're fighting illnesses. They're dealing with real, hard, everyday struggles. Maybe those aren't as glamorous, but they're just as valid. I never said they weren't valid, Meghan shot back. But let's not pretend they're the same thing. My platform, my influence, the expectations placed on me, it's simply different. Different doesn't mean harder, Kelly said quietly. The studio was silent except for the hum of cameras. This wasn't how interviews went on this show. Ever. But Meghan wasn't backing down. I think it does mean harder, actually. When you're at my level, everything you do is analyzed. Every outfit, every word, every appearance. Like right now, I can already see the headlines about what I'm wearing, how I'm sitting, what I'm saying. Maybe the headlines wouldn't be a problem if what you were saying wasn't, kind of dismissive of everyone here, Kelly replied, her voice still calm but her words sharp. Meghan's face changed. Her expression went cold. Excuse me? You've been here for 10 minutes, and you've basically told me, my show, and my audience, that we're all beneath you. That our conversations are surface level. That our viewers couldn't understand your life. That our problems aren't as important as yours. Did I miss anything? The audience started clapping. Not a roar, but a slow build of supportive applause for their host. Meghan looked shocked that anyone would dare challenge her. That's not what I said, Meghan insisted. That's exactly what you said. And you know, what? That's fine. You're entitled to your feelings. But this is my show. And these are my viewers. And I'm not going to sit here and let you talk down to them. Meghan stood up abruptly. I don't have to listen to this. You're right. You don't. But you came here. You agreed to this interview. And now you're upset because someone called you out? Kelly stood up too, matching her energy. Called me out? For what? For being honest? For acknowledging that my life is different? No, for being rude. There's a difference between being honest and being condescending. You've been condescending since you sat down. Meghan's mouth opened and closed. She looked around, maybe expecting someone to come to her defense. No one did. The audience was firmly on Kelly's side. The crew was trying not to smile. You know what your problem is? Meghan said, her voice rising. You're intimidated. You have this little show, this little audience. And when someone with real influence sits across from you, you can't handle it. You need to tear them down to make yourself feel important. The audience booed. Actually booed. Kelly just shook her head. My problem. Let me tell you what I don't have a problem with. I don't have a problem with who I am. I don't need to put other people down to feel good about myself. I don't need to walk into someone's house and insult them to feel important. That's not intimidation you're seeing. That's disappointment. Disappointment? Meghan laughed bitterly. You're disappointed in me? Yeah, I am. I've watched your interviews. I've seen your work. I thought this would be a great conversation. But instead, you came here with an attitude, treated everyone like they're beneath you, and now you're mad because I'm not just sitting here taking it. I don't need this, Meghan said, reaching down to grab her purse. Then leave, Kelly said simply. The words hung in the air. No one expected Kelly to actually say it. Hosts don't tell guests to leave. It doesn't happen. But Kelly just stood there, waiting. Meghan stared at her, clearly expecting Kelly to back down, to apologize, to beg her to stay. But Kelly didn't move. She just waited. Fine, Meghan finally said. This show is beneath me anyway. There it is, Kelly said quietly. That's what you really think. You could have just said that from the beginning and saved us all some time. Meghan turned to walk off the stage, but then she stopped and turned back around. Big mistake. You know what, Kelly? You're just another talk show host. You'll be forgotten in 5 years. But me? I'll always be relevant. I'll always matter. People will always care about what I have to say. Kelly smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. You think people care about what you say? They care about what you do. And right now, what you're doing is showing everyone exactly who you are. So, yeah, they'll remember this. Just not the way you think. How dare you? Meghan hissed. How dare I? What? Tell you the truth? Stand up for my audience? Not kiss your feet because you walked onto my stage? You came onto my show. You disrespected me, my crew, and my viewers. And now you're shocked that there are consequences? Meghan's face was red now. She was furious. You have no idea who you're talking to. I know exactly who I'm talking to. I'm talking to someone who forgot that respect goes both ways. That being famous doesn't mean being better than everyone else. That having a platform is a privilege, not a right to look down on people. I never look down on anyone, Meghan shouted. You've done nothing but look down on everyone since you got here, Kelly shouted back, and the audience erupted in applause. Meghan was shaking now, whether from anger or embarrassment or both. You're going to regret this. The only thing I regret is wasting everyone's time with this interview. We could have had someone here who actually wanted to connect with our audience. Instead, we got you. You're pathetic, Meghan spat. And you're leaving, Kelly said, pointing toward the exit. Security will show you out. That's when Meghan completely lost it. Security? You're calling security on me? Do you know who I am? Yeah, you've mentioned it about 50 times. Now leave. 2 security guards appeared from the wings. They didn't touch Meghan, but they stood close, making it clear she needed to go. The audience was on their feet now, not applauding, just watching in stunned silence as this train wreck unfolded. Meghan looked at the guards, then at Kelly, then at the audience. She was cornered, and she knew it. If she refused to leave, it would look even worse. If she left quietly, she'd look defeated. Either way, she'd lost. This isn't over, Meghan said, her voice shaking. Yeah, it is, Kelly replied. It's been over since you decided to come on my show and act like this. Goodbye, Meghan. Meghan grabbed her purse and started walking toward the exit, but she couldn't help herself. She had to get one more dig in. She stopped, turned around, and spoke loud enough for everyone to hear. Your show is a joke. You're a joke. These people, she gestured at the audience, they're all jokes. You all sit here in your little bubble, pretending like what you do matters, pretending like you're important. But you're not. None of you are. You're all just ordinary. The silence that followed was deafening. Kelly walked to the edge of the stage, looked Meghan right in the eyes, and said something that would get replayed 1,000,000 times online. You say that like being ordinary is a bad thing. These ordinary people, they're the ones who show up every day, who work hard, who treat others with kindness, who don't need to put others down to feel special. So, yeah, we're ordinary, and I've never been more proud of that in my life. The audience went wild, cheering, clapping. Some people were crying. Meghan stood there, completely frozen, realizing she'd just made the worst mistake of her public life. She'd come onto a beloved show, insulted a beloved host, and called everyday people worthless. There was no coming back from this. She turned and walked off the stage, security following behind her. The camera caught her face as she exited. It wasn't angry anymore. It was scared. She knew what she'd done. She knew how this would look. She knew the fallout would be massive. Kelly turned back to her audience, took a deep breath, and sat down on the edge of the stage. She looked tired, drained, but also relieved. Well, she said, her voice soft now, that was something. The audience laughed, a release of all the tension that had built up. Kelly smiled, a real smile this time. You know what, though? I meant every word I said. You all, everyone watching at home, you're what makes this show special. Not the celebrities, not the big names. You, your stories, your lives, Your struggles and your victories. That's what matters. People were crying again, but happy tears now. Kelly stood up, wiped her own eyes, and laughed at herself. Okay, we need to take a break because I need to emotionally recover from whatever that was. But we'll be right back, and I promise our next guest will actually want to be here. The camera cut away, but in the studio, something incredible happened. The entire audience stood up and started chanting Kelly's name. Over and over. Louder and louder. The crew joined in. The producers in the wings, even the security guards who had escorted Meghan out, came back and started clapping. Kelly stood there in the middle of her stage, surrounded by all these ordinary people showing her extraordinary love, and she understood something fundamental. This wasn't about winning an argument with a difficult guest. This was about standing up for the people who had stood by her show from day one. The people who tuned in every afternoon. The people who shared their stories. The people who made her show more than just another talk show. Behind the stage, Meghan was in her dressing room, her team frantically trying to do damage control. Her publicist was on 3 phones at once. Her manager looked like he might pass out. Her assistant was already reading the social media reactions, and they were brutal. Worse than brutal. They were unified in their criticism. But none of that mattered in this moment. What mattered was what had just happened on that stage. A talk show host had stood up to a guest who thought she was untouchable. An audience had witnessed something real, something unscripted, something that reminded them why they loved live television. Back on the stage, as they prepared to come back from commercial, Kelly checked her notes for the next segment. Her hands were still shaking slightly from the adrenaline. Her producer came over and put a hand on her shoulder. "That was incredible," he said quietly. Kelly shook her head. That was necessary. She needed to hear it. "The whole world needed to hear it," he replied. "Do you know what you just did? You stood up for every person who's ever been talked down to by someone who thinks they're better. Every employee who's been dismissed by their boss. Every person who's been made to feel small by someone with power. You gave them a voice." Kelly looked out at her audience, still buzzing with energy, still processing what they'd witnessed. She saw their faces. Teachers and nurses and construction workers and parents and students and retirees. Ordinary people living extraordinary lives. People who deserved respect. "They already had a voice," Kelly said. "I just made sure someone was listening." The stage manager started counting down to air. Kelly took her seat, straightened her notes, and put on her professional smile. But inside, she was still processing everything that had happened. The shock of Meghan's attitude, the anger she'd felt rising, the moment she decided enough was enough, the words that had come out of her mouth, words she'd never planned to say but couldn't hold back. Had she been too harsh? Maybe. Had she been unprofessional? Possibly. Had she been right? Absolutely. The cameras came back on, and Kelly welcomed everyone back to the show like nothing had happened. But everyone knew something had happened. Something big. Something that would be talked about for years to come. In living rooms across the country, people were texting their friends, calling their families, posting on social media. The clips were already spreading. The reactions were already pouring in. And overwhelmingly, people were supporting Kelly. They'd seen the exchange. They'd heard the insults. They'd watched Meghan dismiss an entire audience as beneath her. And they'd seen Kelly stand up and say, "No, not on my show, not to my people." That's what made it powerful. Kelly hadn't just defended herself. She defended them. Every viewer, every audience member, every person Meghan had, dismissed as ordinary. The show continued with the next guest, an author promoting a book about resilience. The conversation was warm, genuine, everything the previous interview wasn't. Kelly was back to her normal self, laughing and engaged. But there was a new energy in the studio, a sense that they'd all been through something together, a shared experience that bonded them. When the show ended and the cameras turned off, the audience didn't want to leave. They lingered, talking amongst themselves, reliving the moment. Kelly came out and talked with them, took pictures, gave hugs. She needed it as much as they did. A reminder that this, right here, was what mattered. These connections, these real moments, these ordinary people who made her job the best in the world. Backstage, word had spread throughout the building about what happened. Other shows wanted the footage. News programs were already calling. Entertainment reporters were trying to get statements. Everyone wanted a piece of the story. But Kelly didn't want to talk about it anymore. She'd said what needed to be said in the moment it needed to be said. Anything else would just be rehashing, reliving, re-explaining. The moment spoke for itself. She gathered her things, said goodbye to her crew, and headed to her car. Her phone was blowing up with messages. Colleagues supporting her. Friends checking in. Industry people weighing in. But she ignored them all for now. She needed to decompress, to process, to understand what had just happened and what it meant. As she drove home, she replayed the conversation in her head. The warning signs she'd seen from the start. The moments she could have redirected. The point of no return when Meghan called the audience ordinary like it was an insult. That was when Kelly knew there was no saving the interview. That was when she knew someone had to speak up. She thought about all the times she'd bitten her tongue, all the difficult guests she'd navigated with grace, all the uncomfortable moments she'd smoothed over with humor. She was good at that, great at it even. Making people comfortable was her specialty. But today was different. Today required something else. Today required truth over comfort, confrontation over accommodation, standing firm over smoothing things over. And you know what? It felt good. Scary, but good. Necessary. Right. The sun was setting as Kelly pulled into her driveway. She sat in her car for a moment, just breathing. Her phone buzzed again, and again, and again. The world wanted her response, her explanation, her reaction to the reaction. But Kelly knew better. She'd said everything she needed to say on that stage. Let the moment stand on its own. Let people form their own opinions. She wasn't going to apologize for standing up for herself and her audience. She wasn't going to walk it back or clarify or soften it. It was what it was. Inside her house, she kicked off her shoes, poured a glass